Hi, this video is going to be about things God kind of hid from us. They're all in the Bible, but our human brains, well, on some things, the human brain just doesn't like to think this way, and then in other ways, well, people have misinterpreted. You'll see, it's pretty cool. Okay, so these are things God hid from humans, either overtly or the opposite of overtly. Well, anyway, okay. The first thing this is more of one thing humans don't like to process, but that's how complex God is. Mankind is uncomfortable with the complexity of God, and they want one truth, and they can't see how different truths can exist that appear to be conflicting but aren't. So one reason I'm making this is because I have a lot of videos that I have written down to make, but I guess seen in an individual form, people can, I don't know, be shocked by or riled up by, but God is very complex. Oddly enough, at the same time, he's really simple. So that's one of his little paradoxes. But God is just very complex, and we tend to think of him as just like one thing. We all have kind of an idea in our head of what God is, although if we sat down and asked ourselves what that really is, we wouldn't really have much of an answer. But we imagine he's an old man up in heaven, passing judgment, or holding out his arms to us, or whatever someone's individual view of God is. And the truth is, in many ways, well, he's a lot more than that, like a lot more than that. I haven't made a video in a while on what happens next after Jesus returns, but I'm gonna well, it's a repeat of videos I made quite a while ago. So just a reminder is that we're not going straight to heaven. God had the 1,000-year kingdom in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it's discussed, but mankind has never known. We just get so caught up in the fact that we think we all die and go straight to heaven, that this was just kind of unexpected for most people. God is going to create a new heaven and a new earth, and that's where we're headed. We have eternity. He has all kinds of plans for us. Heaven will have different stages as well. So for the people that end up in Jerusalem, God's righteous children, it will feel like heaven. For everyone else, they'll be relieved to have the chance at salvation, but it won't quite be totally heavenly. Another thing I made a video about the other day is that God is God, that we understand, but he also plays his own adversary. The word for adversary in Hebrew is Satan, and in the Old Testament, it's called Ha-Satan. And me and my mom were watching a lot of videos today on evil and whatnot and why God allows it, and without understanding that he had to play against an antagonist to get all this to come together. I mean, that's why a lot of people can't believe in God, because God is all good. And yet, how could he play the adversary to himself? But he does. And that's part of his glory. I'm going to say that again. The fact that he can play adversary to himself and do things that are against his nature and I mean totally against my nature. It has to do with how badass he is, that he can do the thing that goes against his own righteousness, which is allowing us to suffer and not doing something immediately. But that's the way it has to be while we're down here. He also hid that our minds and bodies are in continual spiritual battle night and day at the cellular level. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people think their lives are wasted, or that they haven't served God. If you have failed to serve God, or he has not allowed you to serve him for a certain time, that does not mean you have not been serving God. Our entire lives, from the moment we're born to the moment we die, are spent in service to God's kingdom if we're righteous. And then there's different teams, but Team Jesus, if you love God and love and are kind and a nice person, a genuinely nice person, not a fake nice person. And I'll make another video on this, but some of God's children appear to be quite unpleasant because they are so miserable being away from him. So everything with God's complex, but simple. We watched a pastor today who started out talking about some flu from right after World War I and how awful it was, and how this virus got into pigs, and then the meat was eaten and millions of people died, and he was like visibly upset about it. And he kept saying it was evil that caused this. And yet, I was like, whoa, he's not in alignment with the sovereignty of God. But then he did a whole 20-minute section on the sovereignty of God, and he was totally clear that God is all there is and God is totally sovereign. But his brain didn't seem to be able to attach that to medical conditions and the state of the world. Mankind thinks we actually have some control over what happens. Like at the deepest level, we believe that if other people behave differently, reality would be different, and that is not true. An author doesn't allow the characters in their story to move the plot line along. He designed our lives, where we live, who we marry, what we look like, the talents we have, and they're somewhat there can be deception, because we look at someone talented and we say, oh, God must have loved them. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. God is found in the lowest of the low. God is found in the struggle. That's where God is found. So don't get it in your mind that, or beauty's a deception. It's not real. It's something he made our brains think that one thing is beautiful in a certain time period, a different time period, a different country. They have different views of beauty. Beauty is subjective. And that was all designed by God for his purpose. Like, you can sit back and relax because it's all under control. The pastor we were listening today said something really interesting. He said, if God isn't in control of evil, that means evil controls God and he's reacting to it. And here's where we get into the complexity. God did react to the evil when he was writing it, but he kept it contained and wrote it the very best way. So in the living of it, everything is under control at the molecular level. God knows everything that's going to happen, and it is intentional. Now, you do have free will. You can choose your reactions to his storyline and his stimuli, but you can't choose your story. So if you're feeling bad about, this happened and it ended in divorce or ended in you dropping out of school, and you really just think that your life could have been different, no, it couldn't have been. That's not the sovereignty of God. That's the sovereignty of man, and mankind is not sovereign. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He also hid that suffering is beneficial. Suffering is what purifies our souls, and suffering is what cleanses the universe of unrighteousness. We can see that because he sent his son Jesus to die on a cross. We can see almost every major character in the Bible had to suffer. But our brains think that we're supposed to maintain comfort and success and order at all times, and that's godly, but that's not the reality. And this one's interesting. Another thing he hid is that not everyone we assume is righteous in the Bible is actually righteous. I'll make a video about this. It's kind of jarring to say, well, I really looked up to that person, but and it's not sin. It's not what you're thinking. He had a whole plan for what he included in the Bible, and it was all very specific. But we've assumed that if someone is in the Bible and they're working for God, that they must be good. But as he's had me really look closely at the Bible, he's showing me that I can now, after knowing better who he is, delineate that there's a couple characters in the Bible that are unexpectedly deceptive. So I'm going to be, hopefully, who knows when, but putting more videos about these specific things that we've had hidden. God has always said that whatever he has planned is going to he said, stop the world. The information he's going to reveal and the things he's going to do before the end, because he wants to save every single soul possible. It's going to be rather shocking, and we're not going to be I guess he's using the word revival, but it's more than a revival. He is going to release these mysteries and release scientific knowledge and historical discoveries that prove that he is God. And for really, really mainstream Christians stuck on denominational thought and doctrine, they're going to struggle with a lot of it. They're going to rebel against it. But that's so sad to me, because this is his majesty. This is his badassery. This is why he's God and no one else is. If you're new to my channel, that was him. He speaks through my mouth, my face. Someone asked me the other day, how are we supposed to listen to someone making a horrible face like that? And I said, well, the horrible face you're seeing is the face God is using to speak through my mouth, so people know that it's him. And then I said, God is not a God of vanity. Jesus was not a handsome man. He was rather homely. God does not want people following anyone for the wrong reasons. And beauty can be very deceptive, as I haven't had a haircut by anything other than my own hands in 2 years. I haven't had any care whatsoever. I even I lost everything I owned. He ordained that that was my story. And so now I'm only down to a handful of clothes. So I am not here to have you listen because you find me pleasant to look at. Luckily, I've never been too particularly vain, so I'm not too devastated by it, but I would like a haircut because I don't like the way hair feels. Anyway, I'll put these videos out when he allows it. To end this, I am a prophet of God, the Father of Jesus Christ, who came to earth in the flesh, and whose name... He's having me think about his name. His name is Yahweh, but his name is also El. That's part of the complexity of God she was talking about in the beginning of this video. Yeah, because El and Yahweh also have some conflict. He's made all kinds of conflict with himself to get the job done. The ultimate goal is the heaven that we all imagine with the God we all imagine, and Bat Lover uses the word no smiles. There will be no smiles allowed in heaven. Everybody's going to be a smile. So we have smiles and no smiles, and some smiles are actually no smiles, and some no smiles are actually smiles, but God's getting to the heart of who everyone is, and if you're a no smile and you have no love in your heart, you can't participate, but we're all going to have fun. Oh, I can't wait till this is over. I cannot wait to go home. 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 I've been home. He took me home. I went to the third heaven. And from the minute I went, I completely lost my fear of death. There is no death. Death is an illusion. Death is somewhat preferable to what we're doing down here, except the fact that heaven's full of violence right now. So he's just purifying everything, breaking apart the bonds that keep the darkness trying to attach itself to the light. And it is a whole lot of work. One last thing. Oh, so a lot of humans, they don't really believe in hell or that God's serious. But today, he said, the earth should be evidence enough of how powerful and serious God is. And he's showing me images of massive floods and wildfires and all the horrific things that go down on earth. And some people think there's no hell. They couldn't be more wrong. But if you're watching this, you got nothing to worry about, unless you're gonna leave a nasty comment. I'm not gonna let him talk. Anyway, I'm glad he had a few days. He was like, nope, no video. But I'm glad to hopefully hear from some of you again. Your comments give me joy. I love you very much. Amen.